At ease. It's your boy Soul Immortal. Guys, I'm just sitting here reflecting right now, right? I don't want to kick a dead horse, because I've covered it over the last two, maybe three videos. But I'm just sitting here reflecting on how good life has been, how good God has been to me, brothers. You know, I always talk about, the point in life where I was at the bottom, where I was, no food, no lights, contemplating suicide. And now here I am, man, sitting in one of Dubai's hottest spots, enjoying an executive suite with 180-degree views to include the Burj Khalifa, some of the best food, some of the best amenities. And I'm telling you guys, life is good. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm not saying that to brag, because I want the exact same thing for all my brothers that I want for myself. And a lot of you guys ask me, what do I do, or what are my habits, or so what are some of my practices? But I can tell you the exact moment when life went from A to Z. And it was when I decided to cut the television off and pick up a book. So today, man, I'm going to cover the top 5 books that completely changed my life. Let's talk about it. Now, just by default, these two books are going to make honorable mention. I don't think I could put a list together without including these two books, right? And the first one is going to be the Bible, of course, right? Now, this Bible, man, you can see it's beat all up. This Bible was given to me in 1985 by my father, man. It was a Christmas present. And the only thing I hate about it now, man, is that the front cover is gone, because it used to have, had a cover on it, and it had a signature in it. Had his name that he gave it to me as a gift, had December 25th, 1985. And during the years of moving, man, I eventually just lost it. But the reason that the Bible hands down is definitely an honorable mention is primarily two reasons. I think that in today's society, with so many single parent households and sons being raised by single mothers, the book of Proverbs, guys, does an amazing job as far as keeping a young man on track. I started reading the book of Proverbs several years ago, and guys, I'm telling you that there's a lot of teaching in there for a young man without a father, right? So Proverbs is one reason. And the second reason is because of the 91st Psalms. Now, back in the days, man, when I was younger, I used to, every Saturday, I would walk to my grandmother's house. She lived about maybe a mile away. I would get my dog and walk to my grandmother's house every Saturday. And what she would do was cook me a full breakfast every week. Now, in exchange for her cooking me a breakfast, I had to sit there and just let her talk to me about the Bible and pretty much preach to me, guys. And I remember one day, my grandmother was old. When she finally passed away, she was 99 years old, had never had cancer, never had a heart attack. Her body just shut down the day she died. No illnesses, man. But I remember before she died, I said, I asked her, like, what's the secret? Like how are you living to be this age and so healthy, And she told me that she read the 91st Psalms every day. And I'm not finna read it now because of the length of it. But guys, I can tell you that every time I'm in a bind, or every time I got a situation coming up, I think about that and I read it. And not the 91st Psalms, guys, is powerful. So that's definitely why the Bible is honorable mention. And I can't mention the Bible without mentioning the Holy Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Quran, I remember in 2002, right? There was a guy I worked with. He was a Muslim. And I asked this brother to come to church with me one day. And the brother said, you know what? I'll go to church with you Sunday if the following Friday you go to Jumu'ah with me. So I said, deal. So the brother came to church with me. All went well. And then next Friday I went to Jumu'ah with him. And the thing that blew me away, guys, was the fact that these people, or Muslims rather, or during this service I went to, they were following, they were talking about Jesus more than the people out here in the Christian church, right? And not too long after that, guys, I took my Shahada, and before I let all religion go, a handful of years ago, I converted to Islam for several years. So I definitely have to include the Quran in there, man. There are several golden nuggets in here, man. I know if you look at the third surah, section 2, the 14th chapter, 14 verses says, fair in the eyes of men is the love of things they covet, women and sons, heaped up hoards of gold and silver, horses branded, and cattle, and well-tilled land. Such are the possessions of this world's life. But in nearness to Allah is the greatest of goals. And the reason I like that one so much, guys, is because what it's saying is, no matter what you obtain, no matter what you gain on this world, that in a man's heart, his ultimate goal should be to remain close to the Creator, to the Most High. You know what I'm saying? And I believe that keeps every man grounded. So these two books are definitely honorable mention. So at number 5, men, I'm definitely going to have to say that As a Man Think is going to come in, right? Because I can't think of any other book that breaks down just the power of the mind alone. This book, it doesn't have a wide range of topics, but like I said, there is no book that breaks down how much effect our thoughts have on our results, guys. It says all that you achieve and all that you fail to achieve is the direct result of your own thoughts, right? There's another chapter that says, the chapter on thought and character. It says what we are was designed and built by our own thoughts and our minds. If we nurture ignorant or evil thoughts, pain will soon follow. If our thoughts are healthy and beneficial, joy will follow us as surely as our shadows follow us on a sunny day. In the chapter, The Effect on Thought on Circumstances, it says the soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, what it loves, and also what it fears. It reaches the height of its cherished aspirations, and it falls to the depth of its reoccurring, unexamined fears. And guys, this book also has one of my most favorite quotes, which is, man does not become what he wants. Man becomes what he is. You know what I mean? And I've given a full video on the breakdown of that quote. But guys, definitely, As a Man Thinketh needs to be in your library. I remember, I don't remember when I bought this book, but like I mentioned in another video, I remember when I heard about this book on the radio. I was headed to a Starbucks to get on my laptop, and I heard about this book, and I said, you know what, I have this book at home. And I went home and started reading it. Boom, life-changing. So, at number 5, guys, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Now, guys, there are a lot of people that recommend the book by Napoleon Hill, which is Think and Grow Rich. And that's a very good book. I have that book at home. But a book that was written, several years before that, I actually read this book before I read Think and Grow Rich. And it's a book by Wallace Wattles. And it's called The Science of Getting Rich. Now, this, like I said, this book was written before Think and Grow Rich. And in my opinion, Think and Grow Rich is just an exaggerated version of this. It's probably 2 or 3 times thicker, and it's saying the exact same thing that Wallace Wattles was saying, I believe, in 1903 when he wrote this book, The Science of Getting Rich. And guys, I'm telling you, this book is a short read. You can read it in a weekend, and it is powerful. I just made a video called something like the Thinking as If. It's on my Patreon, because this book has such a strong chapter on it. Chapter 11 is called Acting in a Certain Way. And it says, thought is the creative power or the impelling force which causes the creative power to act. Thinking in a certain way will bring riches to you, but you must not rely upon thought alone, paying no attention to personal action. That is the rock upon which many otherwise scientific, metaphysical thinkers meet shipwreck, the failure to connect thought with personal action. And all that's saying, guys, is the exact same thing that's quoted in the Bible. I believe it was in James, when it said, faith without works is dead. And this whole chapter, he goes in saying, you can do all the meditating you want, you can do all the praying you want, you can do all the chanting and speaking in tongues, or whatever you want to do. But if you aren't putting things into action, in other words, if you aren't making moves toward what you want, then you're just pissing in the wind, guys. You're doing nothing. Again, faith without works is dead. Is all it's saying. And I know another thing that caught my eye about this book is in chapter 5. It says it's called Increasing Life, right? And this quick paragraph says, you must get rid of the last vestige of the old idea that there is a deity whose will it is that you should be poor, or whose purpose may be served by keeping you in poverty. Now, I don't know about you guys, but growing up in the South, in the Bible Belt, there are a lot of preachers that preach, suffering. They make it seem like suffering is being blessed. You know what I mean? All the while they're collecting tithes and offerings. You know what I mean? But that this whole chapter is saying, people are saying they believe in God and think that being poor and struggling is a way to show appreciation or sacrifice for God. The Most High, or the Creator, or whatever you want to call him, the source of all things, it is not in his favor for us to be lacking. And this book is called The Science of Getting Rich, but in my opinion, it should just be called The Science of Getting Everything. Because it's not necessarily talking about obtaining money. It's talking about obtaining anything you want in life, whether it's a particular person, whether it's a particular thing, whether it's health and wellness. It's a source to create everything, man. Again, this is a must-have for your library, guys. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Now, guys, at number 3 is a book by Neville Goddard. Now, Neville Goddard is hands down my most highly ranked mentor. I've watched several hundred hours of him on YouTube. I mean, just the way he breaks it down is why I like the guy. He breaks it down in such a simple manner. Now, this book was given to me by a very special person. And what's weird is as much as I like Neville Goddard, I've never purchased any of his work. It's always just YouTube or some source on the internet. But this book right here, Resurrection, I remember when I got this book, I read it. I want to say, in, I think maybe 2 days I read it because once it grabs you guys, just the way he breaks life down is huge. And just to highlight 2 or 3 pages in this book, in the chapter, the law of, it says the law of thought transmutation. It says, whatever state has your attention holds your life. Therefore, to become attentive to a former state is to return to that condition. Remember not the former things, neither consider the things of old. And guys, what I get from that is several things. For one, it's talking about, I always talk about being a product of your environment. And in my opinion, this is why it's so important to remove yourself from certain environments. This is why it's so important to be cautious of who you're following on Facebook, who you're following on any social media, because it's saying whatever state holds your mind. In other words, whatever state you're in is going to be the situation you're going to be having in your life. I always heard the quote or heard the phrase, people talking about, think about the top 5 people you hang with, and your life is going to be just like theirs, or something like that. And guys, that is true. Whatever you want your life to be like, you have to put yourself in that situation. You have to put your mindset in that situation, because if you don't, your life is just going to be going in circles and circles. And that's why I'm very cautious about social media, mainly Facebook, because all you have is a lot of friends that you grew up with that are still doing the same thing that they've always done, and it just keeps you in that web, But so another quote I like is in the chapter "The Law and Its Operation," and it says, "Ideas are impressed on the subconscious through the medium of feeling. No idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt. But once felt, be it good or bad or indifferent, it must be expressed." And we talk about this all the time, guys. You can meditate, you can pray, you can chant, you can do all this stuff. But you have to get in a state of feeling what it is you want. I always tell the guys on Patreon, if it's a job you want, when on the weekend, go to this company, man, and walk around a parking lot and see what it looks like. Peek through the windows. If it's a vehicle you want, get out and test drive it. Because you can't obtain something if you have no idea what it's like. If you want to take a vacation to Jamaica, you need to be online looking at prices, looking at pictures, looking at reviews. But because until you can feel what it feels like, you can never obtain it, guys. You can never obtain it. These are just 2 of the many jewels in this book. So again, my number 3 book by my all-time favorite mentor is Resurrection by Neville Goddard. Now, I can't believe that this book is not number 1, because this is the book that I refer to about 80% of the time when I refer to a book. And it's because this book covers so many topics, man. It's unreal. And this book is Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. If you've seen more than 1 or 2 of my videos, then you've heard me refer to this. Now this book was written during the time, or it was written by Napoleon Hill. But one thing that he requested to his family and to his team, of course, is that this book not be published until he passed away. And if you read it, you fully understand why. It's because this book goes so against the grain. It goes so deep on subjects that he feared ridicule about it. And this is a unique book. And I can tell you this book is not for everybody. I was talking to a brother the other day. We were emailing back and forth. And he said, man, when I started reading this book, I had to sit it down for a couple of hours before I picked it back up. And I said, man, I had to sit it down for 3 or 4 days before I picked it up because it does something to you. It takes a certain mindset to read this book, and even then, it's gonna shock you a little bit, man. But what it is, the first part of this book is talking about, Napoleon Hill is kind of talking about some life experiences, and what I like about the first part of it is when he talks about that other me. You might have heard me refer to that before, but he's talking about the time or the moment he found out that he was built of two entities, that he was, the common man, and then he tapped into that other side, and he can operate in that side, and he goes in detail about that other me, right? So that's what I like about the first part. But the other, I say 75% of the book is heavy, guys. It's what it is. He reaches a level of consciousness where he taps into a high level of consciousness, and he's having a conversation with the devil or some other source is what it is. And you can't be you have to be a strong person to even read this book, man. It's heavy. But one thing I liked about it is it talks about, where is it at? I'm not sure what chapter this is, but it talks about prayer real quick. And it says, when you pray, do not beg, demand what you want, and insist upon getting exactly that with no substitutes. And the reason that stood out to me is because, again, growing up in the South, I've heard the Southern preachers, man, they get up on the pulpit and they're praying and they're just saying, oh, Father God, please give me this, and please bestow your blessings on us, and please, if it be your will, that begging is not prayer, but because begging comes from a state of not knowing who you are. You know what I mean? And this book goes into detail, like, hey, you know what? You're not supposed to pray like that. Like if you know who you are, then when you pray, you demand things. And he goes down through them, and it makes sense. So that's one portion I like. I'm telling you, this book is full of golden nuggets. And then it has a place, a portion of her talking about sex and the power of sex. And I think I made a video before using a portion of this book. But it pretty much ties sex directly to poverty. And it says if humans would control their sex desires and transmute them into a driving force with which to carry on their occupation, that is, if they spent on their work 1/2 the time they dissipate in the pursuit of sex, they would never know poverty. In other words, guys, that's saying when you're focused on your goals, when you're driving, when you're doing your thing, like life is a breeze. Things are coming to you, but as soon as you start focusing on sex, you're pretty much tapping into your pockets. In other words, it says that a man should not know poverty if he focuses on his goals. But guys, again, this book, I'm telling you, it's not for everybody. But if you can be strong-willed enough to read it, I'm telling you, it's powerful. So this is my number 2 book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Now, hands down, my number 1 book of all time. And I haven't referred to it but maybe 2 or 3 times. But my number 1 book is going to be The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now, I don't have any quotes to come out of this book, but let me tell you why this book is my number 1, right? It's because I think every man can understand where the author is coming from with this book, right? Because it talks about a young man, Santiago, right? And it goes through his life. It talks about when he's a young man working, and it talks about his journey over the next couple of years, as far as like leaving home and finding employment, trying to find his goals, and all the steps and trials and tribulations he had to go through to get there. And you can just see all this in this book. And then it comes to a point where Santiago reaches the love of his life, right? And then he has to make a conscious decision like, do I need to obtain my goals, or do I want to stop here, set up shop, and settle for this woman I found? And Santiago had to make the hard decision to carry on with his goals, right? And then this is when it gets good, guys. So once he's pursuing his goals, you know, he becomes aware of himself. He becomes aware of his power, and ultimately what happens is when his life is in danger, when he has to become his full self or lose his life, he becomes an alchemist. In other words, he gains the ability to tap into the source of all sources. In other words, he gains the ability to become a creator of all and everything. And guys, I'm telling you, this is the book of all books. You know, this is a must read for anybody. If you're gonna have one book in your collection, it definitely needs to be The Alchemist. You know, again, there are so many jewels in this book. You know, I can't just pick out one verse because it's the story as a whole that makes the story good. So my number one book is definitely going to be The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now, guys, I want to say this. You know, these are all books that in my opinion, will hands down change your life. But at the end of the day, you know, you can read every book in existence. If you're not right on the inside, in other words, if you're not able to tap into, you know, what you need to tap into on the inside, then reading all these books will do you no good. And really what I'm saying is, you know, it's not just reading these books. It's about believing. It's about believing not only in yourself, but believing that there is a source of all things, guys, that has the ability to give us whatever we want. And again, I'm not religious. You know, you'll hear me, you know, read from the Bible a lot, but the last thing I am is religious. Now, I am spiritual. But again, guys, you know, we can read all these books you want, but it comes down to really what you believe in. So, again, these are my top 5 books with, you know, a couple of honorable mentions. And again, these books should be in every man's library, and they're going to change your life, guys. They're powerful. So, there you go. It's your boy Soul Immortal.